I started it funny again. Kind of making dinner real quick here. See if everybody collects here real quick. So let me check and see who's showing up. Hey everybody, how's it going? How's the sound? Taking a quick bit of food while I'm getting set up here. So does anybody have any questions on configurations that they want to look at? I'm just throwing together a quick salmon while I start. Hope you guys don't mind, I just haven't eaten yet. Let's see what we got in the chat. Okay, well maybe I'm having some sound issues here. If it's up and running. Yeah, it's up and running. Hey, can you hear me? How's the sound? Sorry, I'm gonna throw together some food real quick here. Just making a mayonnaise crusted salmon. Only gonna take a minute. Apparently it's a super easy recipe. Take mayonnaise, garlic, some dill, cheese, maybe a little bit of parsley, and mix it together. See who's in the chat while I'm doing this. Can you guys hear me? I just moved my speaker around, so I don't know if it's actually working. Let me check it. Yeah, it looks like it's pegging, so let's see who's got questions today while I'm putting this together. Just making some mayonnaise crusted salmon. All it is mayonnaise, cheese, salmon. Picked up some salmon today, so want to try this out. Basically, salmon that's from Canada, I think. Yep. Essentially, I'm gonna throw mayonnaise on it, throw it in the oven, and we'll chat while that's going on. little bit of olive oil. Salmon. I know you guys are waiting for me to start, but let me just coat this real quick. Just throw it in the oven. Essentially, I'm just putting a crust on this, made from cheese and mayo. Makes it taste better and also doesn't overcook it. Spread that around. Get it on all sides. First time I've actually cooked live, so this might be a mess. But it's Parmesan cheese. It's farm-raised salmon from Canada. Canada's like right across the lake from me, so we get a lot of stuff food-wise from them. But we do have salmon here, but not salmon season for us. They like to come up the rivers. So all I'm doing is putting Parmesan, mayonnaise, dill, and salt and pepper on top of this. So apparently forgot the salt and pepper. And I know this is sliding all over the place. So a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt. Then I'm gonna throw it in the oven. Fuck. This out of the way. So how's everybody doing? Looks like we got somebody in here. Also doing cauliflower polonaise. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. Trying to multitask here to see if I've done it once. Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually just trying to cook some salmon. It's what do they call it? Mayonnaise crusted salmon with what do they call it? Parmesan cheese, dill spice. So all you do is you coat the salmon with it, throw it in the oven, and a couple minutes later, like 20-30 minutes later, you have an interesting meal if you don't burn it. But let me see if I can double check to see if I got this set up. So I got like 10 screens open here, but I know there's questions. I know there was one that I got earlier today in the morning, but apparently I'm having web browser issues where I'm trying to find something. So give me 2 seconds here to check it. 4:25. What's the time? 12 to 15 minutes. Okay. Well, unfortunately, I think it's a bit of a trek. But which boards are we talking about today? Because I got a bunch of different things that I can work on. Gotta look up the question that I got in the morning. See if I've got this here. Actually, I might have gotten a couple more questions in the interim, but let's see what we got. Okay, someone was asking if the MKS PMC 2209's version 2 drivers or steppers work on the SKR version 1.4. Now, I'm unsure if this is true. We're going to try it out and see if it works. So I'm going to use a turbo. And I'm also going to use the, what is it, 1. Or 2.0. I got to find these steppers. This is going to take a second. So let me prepare this real quick. So this is going to be UART, so I'm going to have to change my steppers. So this is the PMC 2209 from MakerBase, and we'll see if it works. So the first thing that I need to do is actually change my jumpers, and I'd show you the process for looking this up, so I'll do that in 2 seconds. So essentially we need to know what the jumper settings are, and I know most of you already know it. So I'm gonna open up a browser. Let me just get it open here. And it's Firefox. So it's gonna take a second for me to get it set to a default. There we go. So I'm gonna pull this up. You can see what I'm talking about. So normally for this board, we're using the SKR. So we have to do a search on Big Tree Tech, which is BTT, GitHub, and then SKR14. So we're going to go over here. We're going to pull up the manual. And inside here, we're going to scroll down to where it talks about the steppers. And this is a UART type stepper, not stepper. So we have to scroll a little bit further. There's UART mode. So that's the jumper we need to set. So I'm going to go back to the desktop so you can see this. And it's out of focus. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to pop these out real quick. Hopefully not poking myself in the hand. There we go. I'm going to put a jumper on the one they recommended. The jumper will go on. There we go. So I'm going to push that down. Now the stepper has pins saying where it's going to go, so you just basically emulate what you see here because the enable pin's in the bottom left-hand corner, and I'll show you a close-up real quick, hopefully. So as you can see, the enable pin is located right here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to remember to plug this in the beginning so I don't have to figure it out later on. Now the system is de-energized, meaning there's no power going to the system, so it's unplugged. So I'm going to connect the power cables to it first, and if you haven't noticed, I use ferrule connectors. This is for safety, because you don't want to accidentally blow up your board like I do. So you're going to screw these down. And I'm going to leave the power cord over here for a second. And I'm going to connect the USB. Now I can't use USB when it's on the power for... Oops, sorry about that. So it's on USB power right now. So I'm going to bring this up in VS Code in a second. I just need to check some stuff on my computer real quick. Apparently I closed down VS Code. And I need to reset the downloads. So I'll check on the chat in 2 seconds. I know there's probably questions. I'm just setting up the extract for the file real quick here. See what we got for questions here. Yeah, I got the focus back on. Do you want it even better for the focus, or is it not good enough? Let me take a look. Okay, it is slightly off still. This is actually the SKR 1.3. So it's very similar to the 1.4. But let me adjust the focus here. I think that's as good as I can get it right now. So that's the jumper that we need to set for UART, possibly. I could be wrong because I might have to put them on those red pins. So let me check out the SKR 1.4 in the browser real quick. I'm sorry, 1.3. So in the browser, we're going to change this to 1.3, which is actually just a directory above it, but let's just see if we can find it. There we go. So 1.3, inside 1.3 we need to find the manual. So I'm guessing this is it. If we scroll down real quick, I know this might make slightly dizzy, sorry about that. Well, I might not be on the actual manual. Let's see what we got. By UART mode. So I'm actually on the wrong jumper. So we're going to have to fix that. Technically, I think you might be able to use it, but I don't want to say that because the manual says otherwise. So I'm going to de-energize it. I'm going to pop this off. I'm going to take this out. And on the 1.3, this board right here, we have to put the jumper right there. So let's put this back together. And I'm going to plug this back in, and then we're going to go to the browser. So inside the browser, or excuse me, inside VS Code, double check, make sure it came up. Okay, in VS Code, I'm going to go over to the Explorer, and I'm going to click on that to browse to the file. Let me just make sure you have a view that will actually show it. Seconds, I want to fix this. Okay. Let me move this actually over because that's not working. Pleasure of two screens is that sometimes you get things in the wrong place. So here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, then I'm going to say open folder, then I'm going to go to my downloads folder, then Marlin 2.0, then I'm going to open that second Marlin 2.0 and select the folder. Inside here, obviously I have to go to the Marlin folder, then the source folder, then the core folder, then boards.h, search on SKR, and it's the 1.3. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to note what this is for the LPC 1769. So I'm going to minimize that. I'm then going to go to configuration.h. I'm going to do a search on motherboard. I'm going to paste it over the ramps. That's the default configuration they use. And I'm going to set the serial port to -1. Then I'm going to search on the A4988. And down here I'm going to enable the X stepper. Then I'm going to do the TMC 2209. Copy that. I'm going to paste it right here. And then, of course, if you haven't heard me talk about it, this is proportional to your settings in configuration advanced. So if you search here on 800, you'll see what I'm talking about. I search on 800, that is. So here is the first stepper. So this is our x-axis. So we need to change this if we increase configuration.h. So 80 be 160, which would mean that this would be 32. So now that we have that sorted out, it goes all the way up to 256 that you can do that, but you have to bounce between the two. So I'm going to search on TMC debug just in case, because this is going to be interesting. I don't know how well this is going to work, and hopefully we won't see any sparks. So I'm going to remove the comment for that. I'm going to search on the other TMC debug so that we can get what we need for our debug command of M12. Now that we have that set up, I'm going to set up sensorless homing. So I'm going to search on sensorless, and it's the one that's actually above it. So to enable it, you have to remove the comment here. And of course, the actual value is from 0 to 255. So I'm going to set this to 125. So we're all set there. The other thing that you may have to worry about, or may not, is if you home in a certain direction and you're still using an end stop, you may have to invert. So the inverting actually takes place here. So if it's going the wrong direction and you're using an end stop and not sensorless homing, you're going to have to monkey around with this. Probably do 2 different build and loads. But let's go on to the actual build part. We know the default environment is actually LPC 1768. That's our chipset for this. So I'm going to do a clean real quick here. And then I'm going to do a build, and I'll check on the chat real quick. Oops, sorry about that. Minimize that for a second and change this around. Okay, now I can look at the chat. Okay, has the focus gotten better, by the way? I know that it was off a bit earlier. Let me check on it on my side just to make sure. It's vaguely good. Fortunately, I gotta zoom in probably. Now let me fix it. There we go. So now that that's completed, it's actually copied over to the drive. So I'll show you this. So inside here, you can see that it's actually completed, but I didn't get it over to the drive. So I have to go back to VS Code for a second because I just did a compile. I have to do an upload. Upload's going to look like this. Actually, the arrow right here, and it'll push it to the drive. So we'll watch that on the other side. So let me bring it up so you can see it. And there it is. So we're good there. So we're going to go back over to the desktop for a second. And I'm going to unplug this. I'm going to change this over to direct power, which is the other 2 pins. I'm going to plug this back in so there's no power coming from this. And I'm going to energize the system, and hopefully we won't see any sparks. Give that a second to load. And then I'm going to open up Pronterface so you can see what's going on. But let me show you what it looks like on the desktop real quick. So it just loaded a second ago and renamed this to firmware.cur. We're all set on there. So I'm going to go and I'm going to open Pronterface so we can test this. And I'll give you a better view of this in 2 seconds. There we go. So I'm going to connect to the device. Now it's not working because I don't have the right COM port. So one trick we could use, you try the drop down and then try connecting. And we might not capture the port that we're working with. Looks to be the case. So I'm going to show you how to deal with that. So I'm going to go and I'm going to open up Device Manager. And inside Device Manager, I'm going to go to ports, and it says COM port 7. Double check to see if we have that. It looks like we do, so let me give it a connect again. So it's saying access is denied. So I do know why that's happening, and here's the reason. I actually have open Cura, so it grabbed the connection. So I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to connect. Now it says printer is now online. So once we've got that set, what we want to do is see if we can move the x-axis. So I'm going to move it a little. Well, actually, I'm going to center it first. I actually do that with the power off, but let's see what happens. So it moves kind of rough. That's okay. That's probably a setting issue. Let's try homing it. So that's horrible. So let's go back and take a look at the stepper. So I'm going to de-energize the system. And I know you guys didn't see what happened. I'm sorry about that. Let me power it back up so you can see this. Sorry, I changed views. So inside here, when I went to move it, it didn't move too comfortably. So I'll connect again. I moved it 10. Whoop, it's not going to move at all at the moment. Hang on a second. So I'm de-energizing the system, plugging in DuPont connector, making sure it's a good fit. And now I'm going to re-energize the system with power, and I'll try and connect again. So disconnect, reconnect. There we go. Now when I move, it's actually moving smooth. So the actual issue that I had was that connector came out. So let's try homing. That looks like it works. The only problem is it's going in the wrong direction. So it's going backwards for what I'm normally used to. But it works. So the person that asked, does it work? It appears to. Let's try increasing the steps and seeing what happens. So I'm going to disconnect this for a second. I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to pop that back over here for USB. We'll make a change. Let me check on the chat, see what's going on. Okay, thanks. So in order to check to see we can do the maximum amount of steps, I'm going to have to go to VS Code. So inside VS Code, we're going to go back over to Configuration Advanced. We're going to search on 800 again. And we're going to make some changes between Configuration H and that. So I'm going to search on A4988. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and that'll bring us to this. So I'm going to change this to, if we double this, it's 320. We double it again, it's 640. Double it again, it's 1280. So we can go to the maximum amount of steps over here, which is 256. And then we can load the firmware just by hitting the upload button. And I'll check on the chat real quick. Yeah, I don't know if it's a nice tutorial. It's kind of sloppy on my part. Kind of started cooking dinner a little early. But it looks like the cauliflower is complete. So we got a problem here. Now you can see that it can't see the flash drive. So what we need to do is go over to counterface probably and see if we can disconnect, because it might be holding that connection. It's not. So if I look closely at the board, you can see the issue. Right here, this is only on one pin. You gotta put it on both pins. Now connect. That's the issue. We'll go back over to VS Code and we'll do an upload and see what happens. I don't know how long the salmon's been in the oven, but it sounds like it's almost done. So I'll show you that in a second, just in case you want to see it. So now that that's set, you can see that it uploaded over here. Sorry about having you on the wrong screen. I'm going to go back over to the workbench. I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to move the jumper over for power, so it's direct power. I'm going to reconnect this and then reconnect the power. And all we're checking, is just to see that it moves. And then we're going to make one more change because I want it to look pretty. I believe that homing should always be on the left. So I'm going to go over to counterface. Inside counterface, I'm going to reconnect. I'm going to move to see if it moves okay, which it does. Then I'm going to home. So that solves the issue of moving at the maximum resolution. So I'm going to disconnect again. I'm going to pull the plug. I'm going to pull this, and I'm going to move the jumper over. I'm going to reconnect here, and we're going to take care of that other issue of it homing in the wrong direction. So we're going to go over to VS Code real quick. And VS Code, we'll go to the configuration.h. We'll search on invert. And hopefully this will take care of the issue. Change the invert X direction from false to true. And we'll spell true correctly. And then we'll do another upload. While that's uploading, let me check the oven. So for those that haven't seen me cook before, it might be an overwhelming. So that just completed, but I'll show you my dinner real quick. I know you totally want to know what's going on. So that's my mayonnaise salmon crusted salmon. We'll let that cool down for a bit. And we'll test this out. So I'm going to, whoop, you didn't see the mayonnaise crusted salmon, I'm sorry. That's the mayonnaise crusted salmon. Anyways, sorry for that distraction. Let's go back to loading this board real quick. So I'm going to disconnect the power. I'm going to move the jumper over. I'm going to reconnect the USB, reconnect the power. And we're going to go over to Pronterface. And inside Pronterface, we're going to connect to the board. And we're going to move it 10 to see what happens. Then we're going to try and home. So we've got sensorless homing, and we got it homing in the direction we want. So there are other things we could do for calibration, but it's pretty close to caled. I can show you that. I've done it in other videos, but let me check on the chat, see what's being said. You don't have to switch power to USB to upload firmware. You can leave it in the powered position and connect that way. I do it because it's safer for me to work around the board. And I've been known to make mistakes, so I usually power it down, move the jumper, do the changes, then I move it back before I power it up. But the jumper always has to be on direct power in order for the steppers to work correctly for the TMC type steppers. So let me check to see what we got going on here. Does anybody have any questions that they want me to cover? I've been monkeying around with my sound, so if I go in and out, I might have issues with where I located it, so I'm still working on that. Of course, when I walk away to the stove, you can obviously tell why I'm doing that. But that's the SKR upgrade. The only difference between that and the 1.4 is where the jumper position will go. And on the 1.4, the jumper position we saw in the manual a second ago. So I'm going to pop this out and see if we can take a look at that. I want to break it down a little here. Make sure that you can actually see everything I'm doing. So I'm just breaking down the setup. The jumper on the SKR 1.4 would actually go here, but I've been told that they might be the same, but I'd rather you use this jumper on the SKR 1.3, but on the 1.4 it goes there. So what type of boards does everyone use? Because I'm unsure of what hardware you're using. Obviously, I can't see it from here. Sorry, I have this habit of resetting my boards so that they look like they just came out of the box, so that I know where to start from. Get this out of the way. I'll look in the chat in 2 seconds. I just need to clean this up. Okay. Actually try it in the 1.4 and see if we get the same results. You can see the board's slightly different form factor. This is actually the turbo version, so this might be slightly different by 2 steps. Well, 2 steps from where we were. Let me put this down. I'm actually going to do this super quick so you can see it. You pop out all these, pop in the jumper right there to verify what's going on. Place this in here. Place your zipper DuPont connector there. I have to grab this real quick. Notice how I marked the colors. That's so I know voltage and ground, because I've made the mistake of plugging them in backwards. So that's why I have these colored. And that's what's known as letting the smoke out. It's actually on an MKS board, I think. But this one is set to direct power, I think. We'll find out in 2 seconds. Yeah, it is. So to load it, what you're going to need to do is plug it in. You don't move the jumper, and you go to VS Code. And inside VS Code, all you have to change this configuration, a couple of small things. Converting, we're not going to worry about. We're not going to worry about the steps, but we are going to change the motherboard. So hang on, I'm typing in the wrong place here. This is actually going to be the 1.4. I think it's turbo, but we're going to have to check this. So if I go over to source core boards, it's actually down here, and it's all capitals. Didn't know it correctly, but we know how to check it. So we go back here, highlight, paste, done there. That's all set. Now we have to go to platformio.ini, and it's the one change is actually 69 instead of 68, so it's LPC 1768 or 9, pardon me. So we're going to do a clean because this build might fail, but maybe I'll show you the build fail first. I'm going to click on this, and I'll show you why you have to do a clean, because sometimes this will fail. Of course, the one time I tell you it's going to fail, it's not going to. There it goes. So to get around that, you hit the clean button. It's clean. Now you can do it. And in theory, it should work unless I screwed something up, in which case go to the first error. So we'll give that a second. And it looks like it's going to be successful. So in this case, in order to load the firmware, you have to go back over to the workbench. And on the workbench, you have to disconnect the power, like so. Then reconnect the power. Then give it a moment to load. And then we'll go over to Interface and see what's going on. Now, obviously, the device manager is going to change, so it will not reconnect. If you click connect here, it doesn't work. So we need to go over to device manager and see where it is. So I'm going to search on device manager. And inside device manager, if I can get it over here, I'm going to click on your ports, and it's 13 now. So we're going to change the 7, 13, connect, and we are connected. So let's test out the G code for M122. This tells us if it's working. And as you can see, it says that it's okay. So let's try moving it. Let me bring it up so you can see it. There we go. So I'm going to move it 10, and it works. Now let's check the homing. And that works. So it looks like the TMC 2209 with UART works on both the SKR 1.3 and the 1.4. Now obviously we didn't test it like crazy, but I know these steppers might be slightly cheaper. I don't know for sure, but depending upon where you are, you might be able to get access to the other one. They're essentially made in the same factory, allegedly, and they also share the same stepper chip. And I'll show you that real quick. Just let me de-energize the system a little. So on this stepper, I don't know if you can see it on top because it's on the bottom. So I'll see if I can zoom in on that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in this, let me see if I can focus it better. You can almost make out that it says TMC 2209. That's the only difference between this board and the other one, is the color of the pins, possibly the layout of the silk screen, meaning where the resistors and capacitors are. So I'm going to pull this out for a second and drop another one in so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully I got the right chip in hand, which I don't. So give me a second to find one. Okay, that's not the right chip. So I'm going to expand out the screen for a second so I can show you this. I just have to grab a chip. I put them someplace because I was cleaning up. When I cleaned up, I put it in a clean place. Probably back in the drawer. There we go. So this one might not stand up on its own, but I got the chip. So let me put it down right here and we'll zoom in and see what we can see. So if you look at this, I've got it upside down, but it says TMC 2209. So let me spin it and see if I can focus this better. Kind of hard to focus in a close-up, but you get the picture. Essentially, it's a TMC 2209. The boards are almost laid out the same. So essentially, they're the same product. Let me try putting the other one down so you can see it. There is a difference that there's no pins on top on the other board. So let's pluck this out for a second and look at this one close up. So the boards are almost laid out the same. It's just the branding is different, but the controller chip is the same. So let me scroll out on here and see what's going on in the chat. Okay, it's awful quiet in the chat today. So does anybody have any questions about the TMC 2209 or other chips or steppers? Unfortunately, I can't do the LED request yet because I got to research it. Okay, well, let me explain to you guys where my Discord is, like always. So let me pull this up so you can see. Hang on, it's going to take me a second to get it in the right screen. So I have a Discord that you can use. Either contact me or other people. There are a lot of people in here that answer questions. I think there's 225 people in here now. So if there's a question and I'm not around, usually someone on the other side of the world can answer it. And I usually check it daily. So if there's something important, I'll let you know. And it's also a great way to get announcements to let you know when I jump online. Let's see. Move this out of the way. And back to the desktop for a second. I don't know if you guys want to see like different types of end-stop type sensors. There's a couple of sensors that I've been holding off on showing people for a long time. But there's the Hall effect sensor. Kind of interesting, but I was going to save it till tomorrow. Basically, I'm waiting on Adrian to reply back as to when he wants to do the finish up to the Ender 5. So that might be tomorrow. Depends upon our communication. But if not, I'll talk about probably the Hall effect sensors, because we all use the one, or want to use the one that's the BL Touch, but I'll show you other types. I just have to unpack the equipment to show you. But if you do have a request for a video, I'll show you where you can do that. Hang on 2 seconds here. There's a YouTube request folder right here on Discord where you can put down what you'd like to see. There's a couple of things I still have to research, obviously, but I've done a couple of these already. But hopefully I can start moving down through the list. So if it's going to be quiet for this time of the day, I guess what I'll do is I'll let you get caught up on what you're working with. And everyone take care and have a nice day. And by the way, for the people that have been super chatting while I haven't been watching, thank you very much. And if people have been tipping on PayPal, it's gotten kind of crowded on PayPal. I have to say thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not going to read off everyone's name tonight, but I think there's 4 or 5 people now that have tipped me, and I'm extremely grateful. It's a great way for me to buy equipment to show you tutorials. As obviously you know, this is kind of expensive to keep buying equipment, especially when sometimes I accidentally set it on fire. But that's only happened once out of, what is it, 24 videos? So I guess it's a 1 in 24 chance, or what is it? 4% chance, or just over 4%, 4.25%. So maybe in another video I'll accidentally do it again, but it's something I try and avoid. So if there's no more questions, I guess what I can do is let you go for the night. And if you have questions, you know how to contact me. And let me double check on the chat before I do that. Okay, well, everyone take care, be safe, and we'll catch up tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So take care, everyone.